And what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is your boy Cheap Ludes. I am wearing a sports ball jersey because it's Super Sports Ball Day, which is pretty tight. We're going to be ranking the top small forwards in NBA 2K22, my team. I know it's taken me a while, significantly longer, to finish the tier list series, like as opposed to how long it normally takes me, but circumstances are a little bit different right now, so I got to make do. Either way, you guys know the drill. I've already done 2 of these. If you haven't checked out the point guard and shooting guard tier list, you should definitely go do that. I'm going to be ranking maybe not every single small forward in the game, but a vast majority of them. So, parameters. I try to rank the cards between current gen and next gen and a variety of play styles. I also am trying to rank the cards not just as their primary position. So, if a player plays small forward, but then most people use him at shooting guard, I'm just going to rank how good the card is, not so much how good the card is at the small forward position, if that makes sense. I'm trying to change it up because it's unfair to rank certain cards that get played at their secondary position, as their primary position. Examples of this would be like Amethyst Josh Giddey is technically a shooting guard, but there's no one who runs him at shooting guard. You know what I mean? Kazi Russell would be another one. Nobody runs him at small forward. Everyone runs him at shooting guard. So I'm trying to make these changes. So I also try to rank cards not badged up, necessarily, because if you badge any card up, realistically, it's going to be significantly better than a non-badged up one. But I do try to factor in what badges they can hold in the rankings, and I will explain that as we go. So, S tier, unquestionable best. A tier, just a shade under S tier. B tier, vast majority of the community are going to be using guys in B tier. I think they're all really good, very usable. Like this year, the gap between the top tier cards and the B tier cards aren't quite as wide, but it's still wide. You know what I mean? C tier, acceptable cards. Maybe they're a bit outdated. Maybe they're just not really the greatest. Maybe they have uses for certain things like limited or lower overall stuff. I'll go into it. D tier, they do 1 or 2 things really, really well, but in many cases, they're either very outdated or they should be upgraded upon. F tier, maybe they do 1 thing really, really well, and that's about it. So you can obviously improve. And then trash tier, you should not use them under any circumstances. Paul Pressey shouldn't be here. I should have probably scrubbed him, but sometimes some guys slip through the cracks as far as when I go in to remove players. Paul Pressey is one of them, but trash would be appropriate for him. Justice Winslow, I'm actually higher on this card than a lot of people are. Keep in mind, I also rank the cards within each tier, too. So if Justice Winslow is in C tier and then a card you think is really good, but not quite B tier, are in the same tier, they're not the same level of good. They will be ranked accordingly. There'll probably be 30 cards in between Justice Winslow and that card that you like. So it's important to understand that. Talen Horton-Tucker. Lakers fans think this man is an A tier talent, but he's D tier. He's all right. He's got kind of a trash jump shot, but he's okay. He's just really outdated. He came out in October? Yeah, Dunktober. Mark Aguirre. Mark Aguirre was really slept on. I don't necessarily think he is C tier. I don't know. He might be very, very low C tier. I can't say he's that much worse than Justice Winslow. I prefer Justice Winslow, but he's not that much worse than him. Poku is C tier as well. I've never been one to really go on to the whole Poku hype. I think he's pretty good, but I think he gets a little overblown in my team because he's 7 feet tall and can handle the rock. I like Scottie Pippen base. I really hope they don't change his jump shot, because we have a very quick Scottie Pippen release. I think it's a very greenable jump shot. That's the thing I think a lot of people don't really understand when it comes to jump shots in 2K, is people are all about speed. The speed jump shots are the ones that are usually meta, but when it comes to some of these slower jump shots like Scottie Pippen's release, specifically, the green window is massive for those jump shots. Yeah, it's slow, it's harder to get off, but if you're using them as mainly a catch and shoot guy, you can green a lot of shots if you understand that green window. The green window is larger, for sure. It's not by that much. It's not the biggest thing in the world. So, that's why faster jump shots are more meta for the most part. But I like a nice slow release sometimes. It just kind of depends. Not Jason Kidd's, though. Anything but that. Pink Diamond Paul George, B. A bit outdated, but he can still get busy, for sure. He's still a very good card. Alex English, he dunks the ball. He can shoot a teensy tiny bit. He's okay. I'd put him in F tier, though. I would use Talen Horton-Tucker over him. Pink Diamond Allen Houston. I would put him in very low C tier. He can still no. He just shoots. That's like literally it. That's all he does. I'd put him in D tier. He's not good. Kelly Oubre. B. This Kelly Oubre card is very solid, actually. He doesn't get his flowers very often, so to speak, but Kelly Oubre has been very solid in 2K this year. Ooh, Opal Andre Iguodala, A. Yeah, without a doubt. He is a fantastic small forward. I don't think he's quite S tier or anything, but I think A tier makes sense for Iguodala. He's very, very good. One of the best defensive cards in the game. You can easily put him on a point guard and let the CPU just go crazy, and it'll be very difficult for them to score. And he's also a pretty competent offensive player, to be honest. Like, he's good. Diamond Andre Iguodala, I mean, he's outdated, sure. It's not really somebody I would recommend using, but low C tier probably makes sense for him. Level up Paul George. Now, he's S tier. He is like one of, if not the best small forwards in the game. I would say he's probably top 3, I would say. But the thing I would say about Paul George is he's going to have the worst longevity out of any of them. So yes, he'll be S right now. But I could easily see this Paul George card doing something like this, where he just keeps dropping like as the months go by. Where other cards might sit there in B. And the reason for that is because he's an Evo card and you can't add badges to him. So that's why I would say that. But right now, yeah, he's top tier. Terry Disinger. I love Terry Disinger, but I have to say he's probably A tier at this point. He's just not quite S tier. The guys in S tier are just so incredibly good that it's not like Terry's bad. People still love Terry for a reason. Like, he's still more than usable, but I think A tier is acceptable for Terry. I think if he could get limitless spot up, I might still put him in S tier. Like, that is kind of a detriment. He can get chef, which is fine, but if he could get limitless spot up, I think, yeah. Maxed out Andrew Wiggins. C. We need a new Andrew Wiggins card because Wiggins was really good. Like, this card was ridiculous when he came out. Straight up. Ink Diamond Anthony Edwards, I think, goes in C tier as well. Like, he's okay. For sure. He's just a bit outdated, and I don't know. I don't think he's bad at the shooting guard, but I've never seen this card out in the wild for a reason. So, Bernard King. Low B tier, but B tier nonetheless. I think he's better than the C tier. He's definitely better than all the guys in C tier right now. Like, I would use Bernard King at the small forward over Andrew Wiggins. If he could play shooting guard, I think Bernard King would be fire. I really hope we get a juiced up Bernard King card this year because, like, I like Bernard King. We never really get to, like, let him rock in 2K, like, ever. At least I don't think so, anyway. Anthony Edwards, Opal, B. A little bit small to run at the small forward, but he's a relatively good shooting guard. People hate this card for some reason. I don't think he's that bad, though. He's like B tier. He's better objectively than Pink Diamond Paul George. Like, he's less meta as far as like his jump shot and stuff, but I think objectively he's better. Limited edition Paul Pierce. C. I mean, he's just outdated. He's all right though. Flash, Brandon Ingram. Yeah, C tier. I like Brandon Ingram. I really hope we get a new one soon. I'm just kind of annoyed we've gotten like 4 grindable drops, you know, the 2 moments of the month and the Hunt for Glory grindable drops, and none of them included Brandon Ingram, and that's very annoying and frustrating. Diamond Larry, I hate this card, dude. I do. F. His Sapphire would go here too. Brent Berry. He can shoot. That's about it. I'd probably still use Allen Houston over him. He can dunk, though. Allen Houston cannot attack the rim. Like, Brent Berry can at least do that. Like, the new Allen Houston that came out is actually pretty good, but this one is not. Brent Berry's kind of fire. Harrison Barnes. He's all right. He's a big body small forward that can stretch the floor. I think he's decent. Bruce Bowen. C. Bruce Bowen is a fantastic 3-and-D card. He's just a bit outdated. But he still has, like, Hoff Corner Specialist and, like, I think Hoff Clamps. Yeah, he's still really good. Brian Russell. I'm going to put him in C tier because I think he's, like, one of the... No, he's not really that overpowered of a Sapphire. He's just, like, a pretty good Sapphire, so I'd put him in D tier. Ooh, hot take time. Troy Brown Jr. is actually kind of good. Like, he's kind of good. He's got that Dennis Smith Jr. release, which is actually really fire. Anybody who's used Derek Anderson knows. Like, he's good, actually. Troy Brown Jr. is pretty decent, like, for a Ruby. He's all right. You're not going to see him run very often, but he's not the worst card in the world. For that reason, I'd put him over here in C tier. Paul Pierce. Just because he's really good on next gen, I would say that he's probably C tier as well. Like, Paul Pierce is really, really good on next gen. Pretty terrible on current gen, but really good on next gen. Cam Reddish, D. It's wild to me that we haven't got a new Cam Reddish either. It's crazy that we haven't got Cam Reddish or Brandon Ingram like quite yet. It's weird. Justin Holiday, I hate this card, so I'm going to put him in D tier. But if you like him, I could see C tier. LeBron James. Ooh, hot take. I think he's A tier. I do. I think he's A tier. I don't know. That's tough. I might put him in S tier, so I'm going to leave him here for now. Just know that he might move to S tier if I decide. This Karis LeVert's like D tier. He's kind of not that good. Kuminga, I like Kuminga a lot, but he's C tier. Like, this Kuminga's really good and kind of slept on. I haven't really heard anybody talk about this card, but this card is actually a really, really fun Ruby card. I actually prefer him over Bruce Bowen. I think he's like the best card in C tier, in my opinion. A Big Mellow, I still like Big Mellow, but he's season 1 reward. You know, he's super outdated at this point, but on next gen, you can still cook with him. It's not recommended you use him, but you can still cook. Caron Butler, I'd put him like right here. Yeah, I mean, he's all right. People hate on Caron Butler for some reason in 2K. He's not the worst card in the world. Jerome Kersey shouldn't be on this list, so I'm going to put him in trash tier. Like, he's a base set card. Kazi Russell. I'd put him as the best card in B tier. I don't think he's quite A tier. I'm sure some people would say he's A tier. He is definitely an A tier shooting guard, I think. No, I would still put him high B. I think certain players do really well with Kazi, and certain players do not. He's great at 3 hunting. He can move pretty well. He does have like some size issues. He's not the best defensive card in the world. I think high B tier. He's probably going to end up being one of the best, if not the best card in B tier. Kazi's still fire. S tier name, though. Like, Kazi is an S tier name, for sure. Like, if you said Kazi Russell, I would assume he's some esteemed jazz musician from the 1940s that smoked reefers. Like, that's what I would think if you told me, like, hey, have you heard about Kazi Russell before? I would just assume that. That's such a sick name. People need to start naming their children Kazi again. I can't imagine there was an incredible amount of them. He probably has like a real name that's just a nickname, but I don't care. It's tight. Tobias Harris. Like, this card was really slept on at the time, but low C tier. Chris Money Mullen. Oh, yeah, I love this card. Like, C. A lot of outdated guys in C tier. I mean, like, Chris Mullen can still get busy. Like, he's still kind of usable. He's just not really that good. Amethyst, Chris Middleton. D. Yeah, I mean, whatever. He's all right, I guess. Like, Pink Diamond Chris Middleton, I couldn't get the picture to load, by the way, but Pink Diamond Chris Middleton would be B tier. I'd probably put him like right here by Kelly Oubre in B tier. That's where I would put him. So, Mikhail Bridges, that's my boy. C. Still good. ML Carr, I think at this point is D tier because he's just a defensive lockdown specialist. He was like very, very good when he came out because no one could play defense as well as he could, but now Bruce Bowen's right here. He brings you shooting and stuff too. Like, ML Carr can attack the rim and play defense. That's it. Like, I can't really say ML Carr is that much worse than these guys though. So I'm going to go ahead and drop these guys down to D tier. Like Iguodala, Tobias, Mark Aguirre, Chris Middleton. They're just all kind of, I like Mark Aguirre though. I'm actually going to move him back up. I'm a big fan of him. Danilo Gallinari. Yeah, I would throw him in D tier as well. NBA 75, Kevin Durant. S. No question about it. I would say Signature Series is pretty much S too. I just didn't include those, but I would say they're both S, high A anyway. Like, this one just has the ability to get every badge, so it's a little bit better, but Kevin Durant's already ridiculous without badge additions anyway. So I would say he's probably the best small forward in the game. Danny Granger. He's outdated, but still like C tier, I think. Like, yeah, he's still good. 'Tis the season LeBron. I would throw him in A tier as well. Very similar. I just think LeBron's great, but I don't think he's as good as Paul George or Kevin Durant at the small forward. I don't. Rolando. He's pretty good, but C. Danny Granger. Ooh. I'm tempted to throw Danny Granger in S tier. I am. This card is ridiculous. I might be jumping the gun on this one, though. Like, I think Danny Granger, I don't think is as good as Paul George or Kevin Durant. So I'm going to put him in A tier for now. Yeah. Tony Kukoc. Kukoc is decent. I would throw him in B tier. He's a great budget, like, small forward. Darius Miles, that's my boy. He goes in C tier. He's not all that good, though. This Darius Miles I would put in B tier. Very low B tier, but this Darius Miles can get busy, for sure. And commit medical fraud. DeMar DeRozan. B. Not the greatest defensive card. You do need to apply, like, 10 badges to get him up to speed, but he's still good though. Otto Porter. This card is actually pretty bad, I'll be honest. But he's not quite D tier bad, so I'd put him in like C somewhere. Detlef. I really like Detlef, but he is a bit outdated. And he misses so many whites. It's insane. Like, I don't know if I can justify putting him in C tier, but I will because I dislike this card for the amount of whites that he misses. Because it's a lot. NBA 75 Dominique. B. Low B tier. This card, just like Clyde Drexler, got slept on super hard. I don't know. It's just we got a lot of cards. We got a lot of shooting guards and wings at the time. So, Peja Stojakovic, hot take. Like, Peja's actually like low B tier as well. This card's actually not bad. As a small forward, like he can kind of attack the rim and dunk. You'd be a little surprised about that. And he's got jump shot 4 instead of base 4, so he's got one of the better releases in the game. I don't think it's a stretch to say he's like a mid B tier card. I haven't seen anybody use him, I'll be honest about that, but it's good. Steven Jackson, just outdated. D. Mike Miller. I'm going to say low B tier for Mike Miller. I think he doesn't get his flowers either, but this card is really solid, so put him in B. Elgin Baylor, he's a bit outdated. I would probably throw him over here. It's all right, though. Sean Marion, same thing. Marion's good, though. Like, he's just outdated. He came out in the, I think first or second series of limited edition, so it's been a really long time. He's not bad, just ugly release, and kind of like what I was talking about with ML Carr. Like, Sean Marion was great for his time because of how lockdown of a defender he is. But if you look up in B and A tier, like all these guys to a certain extent are lockdown defenders. You know what I mean? Like Mike Miller's not, but Mike Miller brings you so much shooting that I think it's fine. Peja's not, same thing. But like, you know, Paul George is a lockdown defender and he has a well-rounded game with one of the best jump shots in the game. You know what I mean? Dominique's a competent defender. Looking up here, like Iguodala exists, like LeBron exists, etc. Franz Wagner. This card's pretty good, and I know a lot of budget guys like him, but he's like D tier. This one's like C, though. I would throw him kind of high in C tier. Like, he's good. He's a really fun offensive card. Furkan. This one's personal preference, but I like Furkan a lot. Shout out to Furkan. Vince Carter. This one's like D tier, I think. Gervin's D tier. Yeah, Gervin might actually be. No, he's not quite as bad as like Alex English or Kanan. I'd throw him in like D tier. That's yeah, right over there. Gerald Green's fun. I like Gerald Green. Put him in C tier. Gerald Wallace. I think he's still good enough to be low B tier because like he's like Sean Marion, incredibly good at defense, but he has a pretty good jump shot and he's got decent badges and stuff and attacks the rim. So I think he's low B tier, but nobody really runs him anymore. But that doesn't mean he's not good enough to be in the low B tier. You know what I mean? Glenn Robinson III. I think this card's kind of good, actually. I'd throw him right here. Glenn Rice, too. I think this card got slept on. He just got outclassed really fast, but he's a really fun card to use as well. Gordon back to Blue Hayward. C tier. Shout out to Gordon Hayward, I guess. Grant Hill. He's pretty outdated, but he's like Mark Aguirre level. He's still really good. This Grant Hill, A tier, no question. I would throw it like that. I still would use Terry Disinger over him, but Grant Hill is objectively better. Like, for sure. Gus Gerard. A little outdated, but he can still get busy and get buckets. Hope we get a new one soon. Hito, same thing. Like, I actually like Hito a lot. I liked him when he came out. I still like him. Ruby Jalen Rose. He's not completely Drek. Like, I would throw him in D tier. Jamal Wilkes is pretty terrible. And he's outdated. And he, you know, kind of makes you take a hit in your overall. So there's really no point to use him. I hate Jarrett Culver. So I'm going to throw him over here in the trash tier. He's probably not trash. Like, I would probably use these guys. No, I'd probably use Jarrett Culver over a couple of them. But I just dislike this card, so I'm going to throw him there. Terrence Mann. Terrence Mann's kind of good. Like, C tier. Richard Jefferson, like, same thing with Sean Marion. He's just outdated, but it's not really his fault. It's just that everyone in B tier kind of does what he does better. That's it. Moments KD. I think Moments KD is still like a high B tier card. KD's fire on his own. You can make the case he's better than Paul George, to be honest. You can make the case he's better than Anthony Edwards. Probably is, to be honest, yeah. Jarvis Hayes. You guys know how I feel about Jarvis Hayes. C tier. Xavier McDaniel. I think Xavier McDaniel is pretty good. I would throw him like right over here, like mid to low B tier. That makes sense. Dale Ellis is just outdated, but he's okay. Like, he's a good 3 and D card, but he's just super outdated. So I'd put him by like Paul Pierce and Danny Granger. Like, Tatum, super slow jump shot, outdated, C. This Tatum is A tier though. Yeah, he is. I'd throw him like right here. I think he's worse than Terry. I like Terry, but it depends. Terry's just a really good shooting guard. I would do this. Yeah, I would. A tier is kind of hard to rank. It's basically all personal preference as far as like which one of these cards you're going to think. So I'm not necessarily going to rank A tier. I do think Paul George and Kevin Durant are the 2 best small forwards in this game, though. I will say that. Jeff Green. I love Jeff Green. Yeah, Jeff Green's really good. B tier. For sure. Jimmy's not very good. D. This Jimmy, I think, is still B tier for sure. I'd put him like right here. Still a lockdown defender. Can still get, buckets and hit open threes. He's good. If he had range, I guarantee he'd still be like used pretty frequently. This Jimmy Butler is just kind of okay. Like, C. Joe Smith. Joe Smith isn't quite as bad as his past iterations have been, but he's not very good. My boy Hondo, he's a little outdated, but he's still good. C. This Havlicek, I think, is very, very low B tier. Like, he's a very competent shooting guard. Like, I actually really like this card. His jump shot is one of the best jump shots in the game, too, and I think that does count for something. You're not moving with Havlicek at all, though. Like, he's a pure 3 and D cone. Bailey Howell. Bailey Howell's good. I would put Bailey Howell, like, right over here somewhere. He's all right. I haven't really run into... People hype this card. Like, I've seen a lot of tier lists where people are like, oh, Bailey Howell is, like, borderline A tier. Okay, but I've never seen any of you guys run Bailey Howell, though. It doesn't make it... Like, I've never run into a Bailey Howell. I've never seen any of the comp guys who say he's borderline A tier using Bailey Howell. So it's just kind of weird. You know what I mean? He's a good card, and I admit that, but, like... I think it's big Bailey Howell trying to keep us down. It's misinformation from the Bailey Howell camp, would be my guess. They're paying these guys off. Amethyst Kawhi is still good enough to be like low C tier. This Kawhi, A. NBA 75 Kawhi, A. I still think they're like A tier cards. Kawhi's still ridiculous. There's a lot in the A tier. I think the small forward position is very weirdly unbalanced, yet balanced at the same time. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but Keith Van Horn, my boy, is B tier 100%. The reason NBA 75 and Tis the Season Kawhi are on the same tier, by the way, is there's not very many badges that Kawhi needs that like he can't get on the Tis the Season one. I think there are some for sure, but there's not very many, so there's really no point to rank them any different. Kelly Tripucka, strongest mustache in the game for sure. D, he's kind of bad to be honest, but Alter Ego KD is still up there for sure, but he's like C tier. You could argue he's B tier if you have a badged up one, but I'm trying not to do that, so I would put him in C tier. Lamar Odom is great. He's one of the best cards in B tier for sure. I would say, yeah, I would rank it as such. That makes sense. Landry Fields, I love Landry Fields. He's just outdated. We need a new one. This Brown is a bit outdated. C. This Brown's like D tier. He attacks the rim, and that's about it. My boy Matisse Thybulle, you guys know I love Matisse, but C. OG Anunoby, he was so good for like 1 week. Like, super good for like a week. Truly. Paul Pierce, he's really good on next gen, so I would put him in B tier. Like, he's really fire on next gen, in my opinion anyway. Like, he moves pretty well. His jump shot is very clean and very easy to green. He plays very solid defense. It's just on current gen he can't shoot from the corners, and that's a huge detriment. I'll put him behind Paul Pierce and Jimmy. I'll put him like right here. Peja, F. Not terrible. Corliss is pretty bad too. I'd put him in F. Purvis, Vince Carter clone, like he's all right. C. This Dominique, yeah, kind of outdated. D. RJ Barrett, yeah, RJ is my boy. You guys know how I feel about RJ. C tier. Robert Reed, if we're ranking purely on how luscious and oily someone's hair was, then I would say Robert Reed would be S tier, but we're not, so his Jerry curl does not factor into the decision. He's a pretty competent card, though. I'd put him in C tier. I just really wish people would start hooping with the curls again. I can't ever grow one for obvious reasons, and that's a shame. I'm very like self-conscious of my inability to grow a sick Jerry curl. Glenn Robinson, yeah, I mean, he's just outdated. He's good though. Hope we get a new one soon. Sadiq Bey, C. Bobby Jones, I think, still gets C tier. A Blight very low C tier, C tier. This Sadiq Bey is one of the best cards in C tier though. Sadiq's good. Scottie Pippen right next to ML Carr. These Scotties, I think this Scotty goes in C tier. I'm tempted to put him. I'm going to put Scotty in low B tier. I don't care. You guys know how I feel about Scottie Pippen. You can disagree with me. That's fine. That's more of a biased pick. I try not to be biased during these tier lists, but sometimes I have to. And I still think Scottie Pippen is good enough to be low B tier. I do. Steven Jackson. He's arguably the best card in. I like Steven Jackson. I'm going to put him low B tier. Honestly, he's really good. Like, he's not the greatest card in the world. He's basically a Rudy clone. But he's a fun card to use. And I think, like, if anybody was going to be deserving of a very low B tier slot, like the last possible B tier slot, I think Steven Jackson deserves it. Terence Davis, D. All right. TJ Warren, he's just outdated, but he's better than like Jamal Wilkes and stuff. So D. Mystic T-Mac. Mystic T-Mac still, yeah, he's still like pretty good. So I would put him like right over here. Especially if he's badged up. He's still more than usable, I would say. I would. I'm going to rank it like this. Yeah, that looks nice to me. Trevor Ariza, hot take. He is like one of the best cards in C tier. I'd put Sadiq Bey, Trevor Ariza, Detlef Schrempf, KD. Yeah, Sadiq Bey, maybe KD, Sadiq, Trevor Ariza, Scottie Pippen. Okay, I just want to redo this. Yeah, that's good right there. And then Dunktober Vince Carter. Little outdated, but he can still get buckets if he needs to. So C tier. Anyways, that's the tier list. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. You guys always tend to do that. Look, it was very hard to do A and S tier this time. I think the guys in A tier deserve to be in A tier. You could easily tell me that you think LeBron is S tier, and I would say, okay, that's fine. I wouldn't completely disagree with you. I would just say that LeBron, in my opinion, is closer to Danny Granger than he is to Kevin Durant, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? As far as how good the card is. Now, that being said, LeBron is still one of the best small forwards in the game, I would say. The thing I would say about this, though, is when you say, all right, who are the top three small forwards in the game? Durant and Paul George are immediate, right? You're immediately going to say those. And then when it comes to the last one, it's going to be different for everybody. You know, some people are going to say LeBron. Some people may even say Danny Granger. You know, some people, I don't think many people are going to say Grant Hill, but Grant Hill is really, really good. You might get somebody who says Tatum. Kawhi will pop up. Like, you know what I mean? Somebody might even say Kazi or Lamar Odom or something. It's just very tough. But, you know, if there's anyone you disagree with, you know, be cordial about it. But let me know down in the comments below. And I'll be back with more content tomorrow for you guys.